Hey guys, no front camera today, just a quick video for you for our healthcare in Japan playlist. Although it's more about politics and media drama queens than it is about healthcare, but some of you might have heard already, or some of you have, people have been sending us messages that the schools in Japan have been shut down. So the spring holidays were coming up. The kids were going to have 2 weeks holidays in spring, but the government has shut the schools down. Today's the last day. The kids going to school today, and then they're not going again probably till the beginning of April. So the kids are happy. The other thing that's happened is lots of sporting events have been cancelled. Lots of events in general have been cancelled. Anything where there's going to be 2 or more people's been cancelled. Some sporting events are actually going to continue with the teams playing, but with no spectators. Right, the Olympic torch relay too. The Olympic torch is going around Japan at the moment, and the same thing. They're going to continue with that, but without the spectators. They've been talking about doing that, so we don't know if that's happening yet. So look, we're not really surprised, because every year in Japan when the influenza goes around, if 2 kids in one class get the flu, usually what happens is the school will send home letters to all the parents of that class and say, oh, this class has to stay home for a week because 2 of them had the flu. That's really common. We see that all the time, right? So sort of a big overreaction. Some people say it's just being cautious. Other people would say it's an overreaction and unnecessary. But so because that's a classic reaction to any sort of germ in Japan, we're not surprised at what's happening here. And we sort of saw it coming, because what's been happening is the media and social media and sundry drama queens have been, the story's been for the last couple of weeks. You know, Prime Minister Abe has been called on to do something about the coronavirus, and the government needs to do something about coronavirus. And usually if you read those stories, who is actually calling on them, to do something, was usually just the media. We didn't see a lot of medical experts calling on the government to shut down the schools, right? Because again, there's been 186 confirmed cases. Now these statistics come from the World Health Organization. So there's been 186 confirmed cases of coronavirus in Japan out of 127 million people, which is slightly worse than your chance of getting it in Japan is slightly worse than 1 in a million, right? And then the latest statistics say 4. We heard the media say 8, but the World Health Organization say 4. Let's take the 8. 8 people out of 127 million, and most of those are older people who are already sick. So, you know, pretty much the same statistics that we quoted in the original video about this still hold true now. And since we made that video, there's been a lot of other people that have come up with statistics as well. There was a professor at Hong Kong University, can't remember his name, sorry, but it's easy. Search Professor Hong Kong University coronavirus, and you get this guy. He's been a coronavirus expert for 25 years, and he's one of the world's leading experts on coronavirus. And someone sent an excellent interview with him to us just after we made the last video. And he basically said the same stuff, that, you know, statistically, you know, most of the cases have been in China. Outside China, you know, the numbers have been really low, and the percentage of fatalities has been really low and not much different to influenza. You know, some people got really upset in our last video that I actually said that. I said that we're not seeing statistics that are much different than what we normally see for influenza. And some people get, oh, you can't call it influenza, you're not a doctor, but we're just talking about the numbers statistically, right? And he said the same thing. He is a doctor, he is a coronavirus expert, and he basically quoted the same statistics, you know? And again, we see every year in Japan, oh, it was a particularly nasty dose of influenza this year, you know, 5 people have died. I think last year 2 people died in Tokyo alone. 2 people died last year from influenza, and it's the same thing. It's older or sick people. People are already old, already sick, you know, and they're not very strong, and they get a big dose of flu, it turns into pneumonia, and they die, which is basically what's happening, the same thing with the coronavirus. You know, and again, we totally understand that people that you know, precautions have to be taken to stop it spreading too much, and that one person getting sick is no good, and one person dying is one too many. And you know, we accept all that, but what we're seeing is that the experts in the field are saying it's not that bad, it's not much worse than a flu. And what we're seeing is the drama queens and the other people, we're really getting frustrated. The stuff that we keep getting sent, people send us stuff every day about the coronavirus. You know, we're sick of hearing about it, and people send us stuff every day. And it's by the same drama queens. You know, there's an English language, they call themselves a news organisation, but there's an English language website in Japan. And these guys are putting out 3 or 4 stories a day, anything they can find about the coronavirus. So 3 or 4 stories a day about the coronavirus, and just pumping it for everything it's worth. And not once have they shown any of these experts talking about the statistics and the reality of it. Not once. All their stories are drama based, because they're just milking it. They're milking it to get money. Some of you would have seen a video we made recently about the masks. You know, people selling masks online to make money. And really, these websites and these media organisations are not much different. They're just seeing the coronavirus as an opportunity to get attention to themselves and make some more money from more views and more clicks and more advertising. And, you know, it's just a money-making opportunity for them. And they're not balancing out their reporting at all. They're not showing the balanced, calm opinions of the professional experts. They're just all the drama. And when you read into it, the headlines, you know, people calling on, you know, Abe being called on to take action, Prime Minister called on to take action, and then when you read it, it's not really saying people are demanding that Abe takes action, but who's saying it? Who's saying it, you know? And you can't, there's no experts. It's not the medical board of Japan calling on them. And because see, then what it is, it's a house of cards then, is that the way Japan works with the bureaucracy and the rest of it is that once things start to get cancelled, now we're getting asked all sorts of things. You know, we're hearing all, you know, groups that we're involved in, oh, should we cancel that, and should we cancel this, and you know, everybody's talking about cancelling everything now because they're seeing everything else getting cancelled. And you can see it's this big house of cards, you know, and it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's really going to mess the country up because if kids have to stay home, if little kids have to stay home, there's going to be parents who are going to have to stay home with them, which means a whole heap of people aren't going to be able to go to work, you know, for a month because they have to stay home because their kids have to stay home, you know, and then all these other things that should be happening, important things that should be happening, are all getting cancelled and knocked over too. And again, you know, we know action has to be taken, and things like banning people from coming in from some countries that have got high incidence and things like that, that's reasonable, you know, and that's not going to do a lot of damage to the place. But these sort of overreactions, you know, and then the problem is once that it's the media built up the panic, and then the panic and the drama queens then put the pressure on the politicians to make decisions. And again, it's the politicians making decisions, not doctors. The politicians start making these decisions to show that, you know, they want to show that they're taking control and that they're doing something about it. So they start cancelling this and cancelling that and shutting down the schools. And then what happens then is that creates more panic, right? And we're seeing it from inside Japan and outside Japan at the moment. Because, you know, we have to close the schools because of the coronavirus. Well, that's dramatic. So what we're seeing now is lots of people in Japan panicking. You know, our friends and family in Japan, some of them really panicking and freaking out. And then people from outside Japan panicking. And, oh no, does that mean, you know, we've got a friend coming in 2 weeks coming to Japan, you know, and, you know, should we cancel? Should we? Actually, interestingly, she actually has a friend who's a professor, a medical professor in Brisbane in Australia, and she contacted him and said, I'm supposed to go to Japan in 2 weeks, you know, what do you think? And he said, yeah, off you go. Off you go. And he's going to Israel the same week apparently, and there's coronavirus in Israel as well. And he said, yeah, it's you know, it's not, the risk isn't any higher than your risk from the flu or from anything else, basically what he said. So, you know, so again, there's some people that seem to love this stuff. Whenever, interesting, have a look at our Myths in Japan videos. They're really unpopular, right? And our last video about this topic was really unpopular too, because people seem to prefer the dramatic story, right? It's why conspiracy theories and why those sorts of things are so popular, is the reality is always much more boring, isn't it? And a story about the reality, the interview with that professor from Hong Kong University, if you want to find it, we posted it on Facebook. It's a text. It's a text of the interview, and it's on our Japan Channel Facebook page, and also our English Friendly Japan Facebook page. So if you want to have a look at the text of that interview, or if you just search on Google, search Professor Hong Kong University coronavirus, chances are you'll find something anyway. But you know, those sorts of calm, logical, reasonable type stories just aren't popular. The media don't report on stuff like that. They don't pick up on stuff like that and say, oh look, you know, no need to worry, you know, let's keep it under control. And some people really hate it. Some people really, they seem to prefer the panicky thing. You know, you're not a doctor, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, yeah, okay, but all we're doing is quoting. And if you start looking, it's the same as the conspiracy theories, isn't it? If you start looking for stories about the moon landing being fake, you'll probably find them. But if you start looking at stories about the proof the moon landing really happened, then you'll find them. And it's the same with the coronavirus. If you start looking, start with the legitimate people like the World Health Organization and this guy from Hong Kong. He's supposed to be one of the world's leading experts on coronavirus. He's been an expert on it for 25 years. He's one of the first people. He was on the team that isolated SARS for the first time, and it's his specialty, right? You know, go and have a look at what he's got to say, and go and listen to what the doctors and the specialists are saying. And when you read the panicky stories by the panicking people that are freaking out, read who they are. Because most of the ones that we get sent, when you actually get into it, okay, so who actually said it? You know, somebody said it's going to kill everybody and everyone's going to die. Well, okay, who actually said that? And you get into who said it, and, you know, it's very rarely anybody that knows what they're talking about. Most of the time it's just media and other drama queens, you know, just milking it. And we're seeing it from like, you know, the usual media, mainstream media outlets, and we're seeing it from private, you know, just personalities. What do they call them? People on the internet and other sundry people who want to be famous. Want to be famous people, celebrities, personalities, whatever they want to call them. But just people trying to milk it, people trying to use it to get attention to themselves. So look, the facts are, yes, it's true, the schools are closing down. We got a lot of messages this morning from people who'd heard it on the media that the schools are being shut down in Japan. Yeah, it's true. But what we take contention with, those people are saying the schools are being shut down because of coronavirus. Well, we would challenge that and say, no, the schools are being shut down because politicians are wanting to show that they're men of action. That they're old men of action, that they're doing something because they've been told that they need to do something, so they're doing something. So we would say it's not because of coronavirus. If the World Health Organization or what's the Center for Disease Control, if the Center for Disease Control said we should shut all the schools down, then fair enough. But when a bunch of old men sitting around a table say, what are we going to do, let's shut the schools down, we don't consider that to be a medical reason. That's a political reason. You know, we would say that the reason that these things are all being cancelled and shut down is for political reasons, not medical reasons. So the reason we make these videos is to respond to the people who are asking. We're getting messages all the time, and today we got a whole bunch. Got up this morning, and 7 o'clock this morning, there's the computers just full of messages from people. What's going on with the coronavirus? Is it true about the schools closing? So we're responding to it. The other reason is that we think that the reasonable people and the statistical people and the medical people and the mathematicians need to speak up. Because if all we're getting is drama queen stories from drama queens, then that's what's going to rule. And it's inevitable, that's what's going to rule. But just now and again we need a little voice to stand up. Someone said it's a really good one, some European guy with a really cool accent. Just a mathematician, you know, he's obviously good at math. He wasn't a medical guy, just good at math. And he just said, look at the statistics, this, and this, you know. And the logic and the reasoning says that, you know, he's saying, look, compare that to influenza, compare it to this, compare it to this. And you can do it. Someone said, you know, someone jumped up and got really emotional recently. You're not a doctor, you don't know what you're talking about. But the Centre for Disease Control and the World Health Organization work all these things out based on statistics as well. Look at their websites. Statistics play a really big part in things like this. That's how they decide what these things are. You know, is based on the statistics, how fast they're spreading, how many people are dying. It's all relevant. You can't say it's not relevant. The numbers aren't relevant. It's all about the numbers. You know, it's all about the numbers. That's what it is. So anyway, we're going to hear about this. It's going to go on and on and on. Drama queens every day. We're going to be hearing about all the drama stuff, and it's just a terrible snowball now because we've got the media stoke the panic, and then the panic leads to these overreactions, and then the overreactions lead to more panic, and it's just it's just messing us up at the moment. It really is. It's just messing us up. You know, it's going to do a lot of damage here because you know, people aren't going to be going to work. Events are going to be cancelled. There's going to be a lot of stuff that unnecessary damage is going to be done to people. We are worried about it ourselves too, because we can't afford not to go to work for one day. We've got to go to work every day to earn enough money to pay our bills, and if we can't go to work for any period of time, we're going to be really in trouble. We're not going to be able to pay our bills. So we're really worried about it from our point of view too. You know, and particularly when it's so unnecessary. You know, out here in the countryside, it's just insane. It's just insane. We live out in the country here. You know, there's nobody walking around here with coronavirus. There's no kids at the local school with coronavirus. You know, it's just so irrational. It's so irrational. You know, if they did it in places where there'd been, Hokkaido's had quite Hokkaido gets a lot of tourists this time of year because of the skiing. And they've had a lot going on there. So places like that we can understand. If you've got a lot of foreign people there and you've got outbreaks happening, then we totally understand. But you know, just to blanket panic everybody for, you know, 186 cases out of 127 million people, and you know, 4 deaths. According to WHO, 4 deaths. According to the media, 8 deaths. Let's say it's 8 out of 127 million people. You know. Anyway, look, just imparting, if you want to know about the coronavirus, look, go to the experts. Look at World Health Organization, Centre for Disease Control, the professor from Hong Kong University. You know, listen to those guys. Be careful who you listen to, and just keep in mind all the drama queens with their dramatic stories are just trying to pump a few dollars or a few yen out of the stories. That's all they're trying to do. You know, they're not trying to give you information. They're just trying to get some attention and make some money. You know, majority of them that are pumping out the drama stories, that's all they want to do. So anyway, there it was. More videos coming soon.